Welcome back, deep divers. Today we are taking a leap into the future. A future where the universe isn't just something out there, but a shared inheritance, something we all are contributing to.
That's a great way to put it, a shared inheritance.
We are diving deep into the concept of cosmic inheritance, based on the writings of PROUT Sarkar.
Oh, fascinating.
Specifically, his work from 1959, Cosmic Inheritance, a universal social philosophy. I mean, can you believe someone was already exploring these ideas way back then?
Yeah, it's amazing to think about.
You know, it's so compelling because Sarkar doesn't just present a philosophy, he offers a practical roadmap, like for a more just and interconnected world.
That's what's so exciting about his work, absolutely.
Yeah, it's not just theoretical. He really gets into the how-to, which is what I love about these deep dives.
Exactly.
Okay, so to get us started, Sarkar's central idea is that the entire universe is our inheritance, a legacy passed down from a cosmic consciousness to all of humanity.
Okay.
I mean, when you think about it, it really makes you wonder, how does that even work?
Right. Well, Sarkar suggests that the universe is a psychic projection of this cosmic consciousness. It's kind of like, think of it like a dream. Your mind creates this whole world while you're in it, and it feels totally real, right?
Yeah.
Similarly, Sarkar believes that our collective consciousness shapes our experience of the universe. We're not just passive observers, we are active participants, constantly shaping the way it unfolds.
So instead of looking up and feeling small, we should feel empowered, like we're all part of this huge cosmic creation.
Yeah, like we have a role to play.
Absolutely.
And it goes beyond just our minds. Sarkar argues that while we can't actually create the fundamental elements of the universe, we can utilize and transform the resources that are already present. We're like artists working with a set palette to create something new.
I love that analogy.
Yeah, it's about using what we have in creative ways.
It's not about claiming ownership of a star or a planet, but recognizing the responsibility we all have to use our inheritance wisely.
He even draws a comparison to the Dayabhaga system of law in India, where property belongs to the entire family.
Interesting.
So in this sense, the whole universe becomes our common patrimony,
Wow, so it's less about individual claims and more about collective responsibility? That's a huge shift in perspective.
Yeah.
So if we're all heirs to this cosmic fortune, where does that leave us in terms of how we actually live our lives?
Well, Sarkar suggests a live and let others live approach. It's about understanding that our individual well-being is completely linked to the well-being of the planet and everyone on it.
Yeah, it's like we're all in this together, right?
Exactly.
And this is where it starts to feel incredibly relevant to the challenges we're facing today, like climate change, resource scarcity, social inequality. It's like Sarkar was laying the groundwork for a more sustainable future decades ago.
Absolutely. He was ahead of his time in many ways.
If we truly embrace the idea of the universe as our common inheritance, it would lead to a more collaborative, more compassionate approach to solving these global issues. Okay, so we've got this expansive view of the universe as our shared home. It makes you wonder, what happens to the idea of borders and nations in a world governed by cosmic inheritance?
Do those even make sense anymore?
That's a great question, and one that Sarkar tackles head on. He suggests that the concept of foreign lands becomes obsolete.
Obsolete, wow.
When we see the entire universe as our shared paternal property.
Like the universe becomes one giant playground.
Exactly.
And we're all invited to explore its wonders. No more visas, no more customs lines. What would that even look like?
Imagine a world where we're free to move and settle wherever we choose. A world where collaboration and understanding transcend those boundaries.
I love that. It's a future where diversity isn't just tolerated, it's celebrated, where our differences are seen as strengths.
Yeah, where we can learn from each other.
It sounds amazing, almost utopian.
It's definitely a bold vision.
Yeah.
It is. But let's be realistic for a moment. We don't live in a world of infinite resources, at least not material resources. So how does Sarkar reconcile this vast cosmic inheritance with the limitations of our physical world?
That's where his understanding of human desire becomes really insightful. He acknowledges our infinite thirst, our desire for things, both material and immaterial. But he differentiates between those physical desires, which can be insatiable in a finite world,
Right.
and those psychic and spiritual desires, which have this boundless potential for fulfillment.
So it's not about denying ourselves material comforts, but recognizing that true satisfaction comes from cultivating our inner world too.
Exactly. He's not advocating for asceticism, but for a balanced approach.
It's like he's saying, hey, go ahead and enjoy that new gadget, but don't forget to feed your soul too.
Precisely. And that leads us to another key aspect of his philosophy, rational distribution. He recognizes that in a world with limited resources, we need a system that ensures both individual needs and social harmony are met.
Okay, I'm intrigued. So what does rational distribution actually look like? Are we talking about some kind of cosmic spreadsheet where everyone gets an equal slice?
It's not about absolute equality, but about creating a system that prevents that extreme wealth disparity, that ensures everyone has access to what they need to live a fulfilling life.
So it's not about everyone having the same amount, but about making sure everyone has enough.
Exactly.
I love that. It's about creating a world where everyone has the opportunity to reach their full potential.
Yeah, and that's a powerful vision, especially in a world where the gap between the haves and the have-nots seems to be widening.
So true. It makes you wonder, how do we even get from where we are now to this more equitable and sustainable future that Sarkar envisions? I mean, change doesn't just happen magically, does it?
You're absolutely right. And this is where one of the more maybe challenging aspects of Sarkar's philosophy comes in. He introduces this concept of force as an element in driving progress and change.
Hold on, force. That sounds a bit intense.
I know, right?
Is he talking about violence? Aggression?
Not at all. It's important to understand that Sarkar's use of force is very nuanced. It doesn't equate to violence or coercion at all.
Okay, so how does he define force?
He sees it as a dynamic energy, the energy that drives positive transformation.
Okay.
The energy required to break free from outdated systems, to fight for justice, even to overcome personal limitations.
So more like the force of a movement, the energy of a revolution.
Exactly. Think of it like the energy needed to dismantle harmful systems.
Gotcha.
And build that more equitable future we were just talking about.
Okay, that makes a lot more sense. But doesn't the use of force, even in this more metaphorical sense, carry the risk of unintended consequences?
Yeah.
How do we ensure it's used ethically?
That's a crucial point. Sarkar emphasizes that force should always be guided by ethical principles. It's not about imposing your will on others,
Right.
but a carefully considered tool for positive change.
So using our collective power responsibly and intentionally.
Precisely. And it all ties back to that idea of cosmic inheritance. If we see the universe as our shared home, a gift from the cosmic entity to all of humanity, it changes everything.
Right, it changes how we act, how we treat each other, how we care for the planet.
It compels us to act with compassion and understanding, with a deep commitment to creating a better world.
It really is a profound shift in perspective.
It is, and it can be incredibly liberating. It allows us to see the world with new eyes.
Absolutely. But before we get too carried away, let's take a step back and look at one of the key obstacles that Sarkar identifies on the path to realizing this vision.
Okay.
His critique of limiting identities.
Right. It's fascinating how he uses the caste system as a prime example of how those narrow definitions of self can stifle potential and create division.
It's so relevant to the challenges we face today, even beyond the specific context of the caste system.
Absolutely. He's challenging us to examine all forms of limiting identities, whether it's nationality, religion, ethnicity, anything that creates those artificial barriers between people.
So he's calling for a radical expansion of our sense of self, moving beyond those narrow boxes.
That's a great way to put it. He uses a powerful analogy. Imagine a series of circles,
Okay.
each representing a different level of identity. You might start with your family, then your community, your nation, and so on. But as your awareness expands, so does that circle until you reach the ultimate circle, universalism.
It's like those ripple effects you see when you drop a pebble in a pond. Each ripple expands outward, connecting to a wider area.
Exactly.
Makes you realize we're all part of this interconnected web, regardless of our differences.
And in this state of universalism, we identify with all of humanity and the cosmos itself. We recognize our shared heritage as children of the cosmic entity,
Wow. And it's from this expanded awareness that we can start to build a more just and sustainable future for everyone.
That's the idea.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground in this first part of our deep dive into cosmic inheritance. We've explored the idea of the universe as our shared heritage, the importance of nurturing our material and spiritual needs, that concept of rational distribution, the role of force in driving positive change, and this transformative power of a universal identity.
It's a lot to take in, but it's incredibly empowering.
It is. It really is.
It's like a call to action, an invitation to be co-creators of a better future.
You know what? I think we're ready to tackle that challenge head on.
I think so too.
So join us for part 2 of our deep dive into cosmic inheritance. where we'll continue exploring these ideas
Yeah.
and uncover even more practical insights for creating a brighter future.
I'm looking forward to it. It's always so fascinating to delve deeper into these ideas and see what emerges.
I agree. See you there, deep divers.
See you there. Picking up where we left off, let's imagine for a moment what a world without borders might actually look like. We're so used to thinking in terms of countries and nationalities, it's hard to wrap your head around it, you know?
Yeah, it's a total mind bender. Like, does this mean everyone just packs up and moves wherever they want? What about managing resources?
Yeah.
Cultural differences, even just basic things like language barriers. It sounds a little chaotic, honestly.
Yeah, those are all valid concerns. But remember, Sarkar isn't suggesting that we just abandon all systems and structures. It's about shifting our perspective, from one of division and competition to one of collaboration.
Oh, I see.
And shared responsibility.
So instead of building walls, we're building bridges.
Exactly.
Okay, I like the sound of that.
Right.
But how do we actually bridge those gaps in a way that's fair for everyone?
That's where the concept of rational distribution comes in.
Right.
It's not about dictating where people live or how resources are allocated, but about creating a system that makes sure everyone has the opportunity to thrive, no matter where they come from or what their background is.
So it's not about erasing differences, but finding ways to celebrate our diversity.
Yeah.
While still working together.
Exactly.
Okay, now I'm starting to see how all of this fits together.
It's about recognizing our interconnectedness, even while appreciating our unique perspectives.
And it goes beyond just material resources, right?
Yeah.
Think about all the knowledge, the ideas, even just cultural practices that could be shared in a world without borders.
That's a great point.
It's about, using our collective wisdom to solve problems and create a more vibrant future.
It's about tapping into that potential, that human ingenuity, when we break down those barriers.
I can't help but think about the potential for innovation, like scientists all over the world working together without restrictions.
Right. Imagine the breakthroughs we could make.
Or artists and musicians blending traditions, creating totally new forms of expression.
The possibilities are endless, really.
It's giving me chills just thinking about it. It's like we're on the verge of a new era.
Yeah.
Where collaboration and interconnectedness are the driving forces.
That's an exciting vision.
It is, and it brings us back to this idea of force, which we were talking about earlier.
Right.
It's about recognizing that change requires effort. Yeah. A collective push to break free from those old patterns.
And create something new.
Exactly. I remember you talked about force as this dynamic energy for transformation, not about imposing our will on others,
right,
but about harnessing our power to create a better world.
Yeah, it's about using our voices, our actions, even our resources to challenge injustice, to promote sustainability,
Right.
to really build a world that reflects our values.
What would be some concrete examples of that force in action?
Well, think about those movements for social justice, for environmental protection. We're seeing people coming together all over the world to demand change, to challenge the way things are.
Yeah, to create a future that aligns with their vision.
It's inspiring to see.
And it highlights the importance of embracing a universal identity, right?
Absolutely.
Because when we see ourselves as part of something larger, it fuels that desire to create a better world for everyone.
It's about transcending those limiting identities that keep us divided and embracing a sense of shared humanity that really unites us.
It's like those expanding circles again. As we widen that circle of compassion, it leads to a more collaborative approach to solving problems.
And that's the essence of cosmic inheritance, recognizing that we're all in this together, that we're all part of this grand experiment unfolding in the universe.
It's a beautiful and inspiring concept.
It is.
But it also makes you wonder, how do we actually live that out in our everyday lives? It's one thing to talk about universalism and interconnectedness, but how do we turn these ideals into action?
Right. That's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's something we each need to grapple with, both individually and collectively.
So it's about examining our own beliefs and behaviors and asking ourselves, how can I contribute to a more just and sustainable world?
It's about integrating these principles into our relationships, our work, our communities.
So it's not just about understanding the concepts, but about embodying them.
It's about making them a part of who we are.
It's about shifting from scarcity and competition to abundance and collaboration.
And that shift can be so powerful, it allows us to see the world in a whole new way.
To recognize that interconnectedness.
And to tap into our collective potential.
I'm feeling a renewed sense of hope, like we've been given a glimpse of a brighter future.
That's great to hear.
And now it's up to us to make it happen.
Absolutely. We have the power to shape our own destiny.
It's exciting and also a little overwhelming.
It's understandable to feel that way.
It's a lot to process. How do we even begin to tackle these challenges?
Well, remember, even small actions can have a ripple effect. It starts with awareness, with educating ourselves and others.
So starting with ourselves and our own actions.
Exactly. It's about making conscious choices, supporting organizations that are making a difference, having those tough conversations with people.
It sounds like a journey.
It is a process of learning and growth.
And we're all on that journey together.
That's right. And that's what makes it so beautiful. We're all part of this grand experiment, and we have the power to shape the outcome.
I'm feeling a renewed sense of purpose,
That's wonderful.
It's like we've been given a glimpse of what's possible, and now it's up to us to create it.
Exactly. And remember, even amidst the challenges and complexities of the world, there's always reason for optimism. Human beings are incredibly resilient, and we have this remarkable capacity for love, for compassion, for collaboration.
I'm ready to tap into that collective power and see what we can do.
Me too. And I think we're just getting started. There's so much more to explore in Sarkar's work, so many more insights that can help us navigate the 21st century.
I'm already looking forward to our next deep dive.
I am too.
But before we wrap up this part of our exploration, I want to circle back to something you said earlier
Oh, okay.
about Sarkar's critique of the caste system. It really struck me as relevant to the conversations we're having today about social justice and equality.
Yeah, it's such a powerful example of how limiting identities can create those divisions.
And stifle potential.
And we see it playing out in so many ways all over the world.
So it's not just about dismantling a specific hierarchy, but about challenging any system that categorizes people into these rigid boxes
Exactly.
and limits their opportunities.
It's about recognizing that inherent worth and dignity in every human being.
It makes me wonder, how do we break free from these identities, both individually and as a society?
That's a great question, and one that we'll delve into more deeply in the next part of our deep dive.
All right, so we're back, ready to tackle that big question. How do we break free from those limiting identities that hold us back, not just as individuals, but as a whole society?
It's a process, really, of expanding our awareness, both inward and outward.
Okay.
It starts with examining our own beliefs, our biases,
Right.
the stories we tell ourselves about who we are and where we belong.
So challenging those internal narratives that can limit our potential. Those voices that say, you're not good enough or you don't belong here.
Exactly. It's about questioning those beliefs and replacing them with ones that empower us. And it's not just about individual growth. It's also about recognizing how these limiting identities are perpetuated by systems and structures that actually benefit from keeping us divided.
So it's a two-pronged approach.
Right.
Working on ourselves internally, but also challenging those external forces that reinforce these limiting identities.
Precisely. And remember those expanding circles we talked about?
Yeah.
It's about consciously choosing to expand our circle of compassion,
Yeah.
to include those who might be different from us in some ways, but are ultimately part of our shared human family.
Moving beyond that us versus them mentality.
Exactly. Embracing a more inclusive worldview.
But how do we actually do that? It's easy to talk about expanding our circles, but it can be tough to put it into practice, especially when we're faced with those ingrained prejudices and societal norms.
It takes effort, for sure, and a willingness to step outside of our comfort zones. It might mean having conversations with people who have different perspectives,
Yeah.
Challenging those stereotypes and assumptions, even being mindful of the language we use.
So being proactive, both in our personal life and how we interact with the world around us.
Absolutely. And it's an ongoing process, not a destination. We're all on this journey of growth and evolution, and there will be, stumbles and setbacks along the way.
Right. It's like we're constantly expanding our understanding, like those ripples in the pond, always reaching outward.
Exactly. And the more we expand that awareness, the more we realize how interconnected we truly are. It's like Sarkar is saying, hey, we're all in this cosmic dance together, so let's learn to move in harmony.
I love that. It really captures the beauty and complexity of this whole idea of cosmic inheritance.
Yeah.
It's not just about those material resources. It's about embracing a whole new way of thinking, a new way of being in the world.
And it's about recognizing that we have a choice, We can cling to those limiting identities that divide us, or we can embrace those expansive possibilities of a shared inheritance that unites us.
So instead of seeing the universe as a battleground, we can choose to see it as this vast canvas for collaboration and co-creation.
That's the idea. It's a powerful shift in perspective.
It really is. And it all comes back to that core principle of cosmic inheritance. We're all in this together.
That's what it's all about.
Well, as we wrap up this deep dive into cosmic inheritance, I want to leave our listeners with this thought. What if we truly believed that the universe is our inheritance, a gift to all of humanity? How would that change how we live, how we interact with each other, how we care for our planet?
It's a question worth reflecting on for sure. I encourage you to explore Sarkar's work, see what resonates with you. These aren't just abstract concepts. They have the potential to shape the world we create, for ourselves and for future generations.
Thank you all for joining us on this incredible journey. We hope this deep dive has sparked your curiosity, broadened your perspective, and maybe even inspired you to embrace the possibilities of our shared cosmic inheritance. Keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep reaching for those stars.
See you next time, Deep Divers.